on the side, Thirsty Thursday. Brother Love is here with you. I'm Loveless Johnson, and I'm here joined by my good friend Dave Packard, who is another intellectual and someone I like to bounce stuff off as often as I possibly can, because Dave and I both are a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll.
A little bit skeptical.
A little bit skeptical. So we want to welcome everybody to the Thirsty Thursday edition of CTR on the Side. This is the Call to Reason reality talk radio show podcast, and we are very happy to be here with you. Dave, can you put all our marijuana paraphernalia off to the side? Yes, I am a legal medical card holder here in the state of New Mexico, so I keep my PTSD in check. Very happy to be here with all of you, although we got a lot to talk about this Thursday. There's a lot going on, Dave. Where do we want to begin? Do we want to begin with the shutdown, or do we want to begin with the Mueller investigation?
You want to go. You want to go right to Giuliani.
No, I don't want to go right. I want to talk about the shutdown.
What did he say yesterday? What did Giuliani say yesterday? Giuliani
said that he never said that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Dave, he actually said that.
No, he said there's no collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. He didn't say he could speak for the campaign.
But he's been speaking for the campaign.
I know, 18 months. 18 months.
I mean, and Donald Trump, they calculated in 2018, Donald Trump tweeted no collusion 58 times. At least, and he said
then I believe him. We're done. Podcast over.
And then he said it several other times out loud. He's done it in print interviews. Like he said unequivocally that there was no one in his organization that had ever colluded with Russia. That's what he said.
18 months they've said that.
That's what he said. So my question to you is, have you ever seen a manipulation operation like this? Have you ever seen goalposts be moved so brazenly, like so obviously in your life?
I hope.
And how did Rudy Giuliani go from saying there is no such thing as a small crime when he was prosecuting mobsters to now basically being the manipulative propaganda mouthpiece for a mobster?
I'm really at a loss for how that happened. Whereas you can expect an attorney to say nothing, there's no substance, there's no meat on the bone.
Right.
But if you keep changing what you're serving at the dinner table, people are going to keep biting, and somebody's going to find some meat. Right?
Yeah.
Giuliani is just, he doesn't care anymore. I told you before we started, I think he wants to get fired.
You think he wants to get fired?
I would. You're working for a guy who's a liar. The whole thing with, attorney-client privilege doesn't mean anything if there's no rules.
Right.
I think I would want to get fired if I'm him. Look at an 8-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure book deal. He won't have to go through a trial and lose a trial with Trump.
Right.
And he won't have to deal with an idiot. Trump's really not speaking intelligently anymore, if he ever did.
Right. Well, do you know all the presidents have numbers, and he's number 45. But now, there's a new hashtag going around referring to him as IQ 45.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
IQ 45. Yes. I think that's clever. I'm going to start using that. But we're starting a hashtag here thanks to my good friend Lance Robertson in Atlanta, Georgia. He's been recommending one that I think we're going to pick up, just simply Dump Trump 2020. I mean, that should be on everyone should be hashtagging that. All the shows, all the editorial, commentators, all the satirists, we all should be using Dump Trump 2020.
And the saddest thing, Trump is 37% of the electorate.
Mm-hmm.
He's just starting, the general polls are just starting to trend down now. It took them this long to hate their man.
Well, but his cult is actually starting to bail. And
little by little.
57% have said they absolutely will not vote for Trump. And when you look at where some of those numbers are coming from, in places where he actually stole the election, like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, not looking good for him in 3 of those 4 states. Solid, I think he's going to lose solidly in Pennsylvania, solidly in Ohio, in Wisconsin, and solidly in Michigan. because those states flipped away from Republican governors and
Yes,
elected
yes,
Democrats,
yes.
all three, and now
I think 2 of the 3 for sure. I'm not so sure about Wisconsin because I don't know if their voter rules and laws that they made, which were the craziest gerrymandering
well,
ever.
their lame duck rules were thrown out by
But the ones before the lame duck.
Yeah.
That's why it's solidly Republican everywhere
right.
except
well,
Milwaukee.
It's been gerrymandered to death, but the lame duck rules were thrown out. So everything they did to gut the governor's power and voter rights, a federal judge threw that out today.
Okay, I didn't see
so
that
that's
yet.
good news as well. The Mueller investigation, though, folks, is obviously not over. We there was some speculation at the end of the year that perhaps he might wrap up an investigation, issue a report sometime next month. But given that he's extended the grand jury for an additional 6 months, and given that we know now that he's also processing the information that has been going on related to the FBI suspecting that there may be something afoul enough to open their own investigation into counterterrorism, we don't know what information they've shared based on their information gathering that may or may not have been relevant in Mueller's investigation. So all that stuff has to be added in. Dave, I think what's been going on is simply that Mueller knows what the political stakes are here. And although he is, by all accounts, one of the most apolitical public servants there have been in terms of his anti-partisan, way of being, certainly I think from a legal perspective, the goal is always to present a case that's airtight and incontrovertible. But I think he's taking the extra time to be able to create enough that can be shared in the public. So that the court of, I think Mueller's building a case not only for a court of law, but for a court of public opinion as well.
I hope it's just for a court of law.
Yeah.
I know that's a little short-sighted.
I do too as well, but
I think if I was Trump, I've got the new one. This is all going to come down. The election's coming up very quickly, 2020. It's coming very quickly. That's going to coincide with seating. Grand juries take a while, and all that. I think Trump's going to say, hey, I will order, if you vote for me, I'll order an executive order first day of the new term where I'm going to legalize marijuana. That is going to be his.
Well, I predicted that a while ago. I said
that's a saving
grace. I said
grace,
he was going to let all the black folks cutting Ray Ray out of jail.
I was wondering if he would do that.
Pardon thousands of people, and then
he'd get the Atlanta vote, as you said.
He'd get all the black vote if he let everybody cutting Ray Ray out of jail on a pardon and legalize weed. Black folk would vote for him by at least 35%.
Yeah, and and the African American, the black, it's about conservative, voting public.
Right.
They did 35%.
Right. He's going to pull out desperate stops, though. There's no doubt about it. He'll be throwing everything he can at the wall.
What are some of the things he can do? He
can pardon several thousand people and legalize marijuana with an executive order.
And then he can do the Dreamers Act.
I
was thinking about it. I'm going to do the Dreamers Act. You give me the wall. He wants a wall because
because that's the only thing he's got left to hold on to his base. That's the only reason why the wall is so important. Listen, they have their own internal polling.
Yes.
They shared it with the Russians.
Yeah,
okay?
Yes.
Because they know how to target. The polling was so good, they used it to target. Listen, he has been continuing that stuff. Now that he says he hates polls, but he uses them.
Yeah.
And if the polls, in other words, his internal polling is showing probably a bleaker picture than what we're hearing about in public in terms of his base. Yes, in how it has shrunk. Listen, let's look at, for example, the GoFundMe for the wall. Okay? Of course, that's been disbanded.
Yeah, and it's a scam.
It turned out to be a scam.
It's always a scam.
Well,
of course,
as
you and I say.
Yeah, Trump, he tried a Trumponian type scam.
Trumponian.
And it didn't work.
Call to reason, that's adjective of the day.
Because GoFundMe just decided that, we're sniffing out the scam. We're just going to refund hit the reset button, get it back to zero, no harm, no foul. But no, sir, you will not run a scam using Trump with us, on the American people. But my point is this. That thing started, and it came out of the gate, and it raised all this money very quickly, okay? But then it got to what I knew would be the apex point, And then it would start, the donations would slowly start to trickle.
Yes.
When they first started raising money, it looked like, based on the rate of donation, they could raise $1 billion in about 150 days.
Yeah, that's what
okay. Yeah. Then it trickled down until it got to 800 and some days. And then it was projected it would take them like 3 years to raise the money at the rate of donations they were getting. And as I said in the beginning, I wanted this to happen because, and I was glad it did, because I wanted for the America to see just how puny and meaningless this Trump cult really is. Who is really committed to Trump's cult?
The problem is the Trump cult is old, white, Midwestern voters. Mostly, they say central of the country, but we will call them, for lack of better terms, what do you want to call them? Suburban voters, older, white, suburban voters, lots of military veterans. And the only problem is his 37% of this country that loves him, and 51% doesn't like him. His they vote in very high percentages.
Well, but we also know that this past election cycle, we broke a record for first-time voters.
Yes.
We shattered the record. We almost doubled the previous record. And I believe 2020 is going to break the record yet again. I don't think the 60 million people that sat on the sidelines in 2016 are going to sit on the sidelines in 2020. I think too many people have been affected negatively in their personal lives. The 800,000 federal employees that are suffering from not getting a paycheck, that's only the tip of the iceberg. If you look at the federal contractors that have contracts with the federal government that aren't getting paid right now and won't be getting back pay, if you just look at the food trucks and all the other people who service federal workers around the federal courthouses and federal buildings all over the country, and you look at the red state flyover federal workers who aren't getting paid, and all those those Republican Trump voting restaurant owners who are going to go broke because of this shutdown and them losing their businesses, these people, not all of them are more committed to white supremacy than anything else. That keeps them in the cult. And that's the cult members. All the people who are left in the cult are simply those who are not affected by these kinds of things and who have white supremacy as their very first number one priority. That is Trump's cult, period.
Yeah.
I guarantee you by 2020, if he makes it that long, those are the only votes he's going to get. And that is primarily going to be older white men over 50. Midwestern, wherever they are.
Well, they are. They're in California.
The women who they have subdued will stick with Trump too. They'll still get
and anyone who is, let's say, in the defense contracting game, they could be
But the independents who voted for Trump thinking he would shake it up yet not destroy the country realize that he's destroying the country and that they're not going to vote for him again. And all the Democrats have to do is not elect a radical left-wing socialist kook themselves.
I don't know. The progressives are the only ones who are bringing it. Like somebody like Bernie Sanders, he's the only one who had campaign rallies in the Democratic field that were successful. AOC, as we'll call her, she's bringing people, and she's bringing small donations.
Right.
And I suggest all the Cult of Reason readers, read the Down with Tyranny blog of Howie Klein, and he'll take care of the Blue Dog Democrats better than I can. He's just AOC really got people fired up. What would be the problem with a progressive Democratic candidate? Because if you give them a blue dog,
well, we don't need a Republican light. We don't need a Republican light in order to beat Trump.
No,
the Democrats need a contrast. They need a candidate that's going to campaign on the referendums that voters across the country, like if you look at Florida, for example, even though they elected a Republican to the Senate and a Republican governor, if you look at their ballot referendums and the issues that they voted yes on, they voted to restore voting rights for felons. Yes. They voted to loosen the medical marijuana law
today.
Florida, is a prime example, and there are states all across the country where ballot measures that actually impact the day-to-day lives of people are getting voted on by overwhelming numbers by voters who voted for Republicans, for Trump, even though Republicans campaign and govern the complete opposite of what those voters want. The Republicans have never been more out of touch with the agenda and the desires of their actual voters in any period in history.
And the Democrats, I'm afraid the Democrats are having the same problem.
Yeah,
they're saying, "Oh,
that's because they're both bought by corporations."
Exactly what I was going to say. When they scream, "Oh, we can't have a progressive, presidential candidate," it's not the electorate that's saying it; it's the donors.
It's the propaganda machine.
It's the donors
that they
say, my donors are afraid.
Right.
If Pfizer does not want, the same price controls that they have in Europe, India.
They do not.
India's got 1 billion people. They're making all of our drugs are being made basically in India right now. India, Turkey, and Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And Mexico too, of course. We make a lot in Mexico, and of course a lot in the United States. But India, they're paying pennies for what we're paying dollars.
Yes, they are. They are, Dave. I want to take a moment and welcome everyone. If you're just joining us, you're right here on Call to Reason's CTR on the Side Thurssday podcast. Chin chin, everyone. Pour yourself a drink because we got a lot to talk about this week. New Mexico legislature, actually, as a sidebar, as a number of legislatures across the country are now in session. And here in New Mexico, a number of hot issues. We have a new governor and we're dealing with a budget surplus. There are a lot of ambitious goals for improving education and infrastructure and other things with the money, extra money. But there's also, of course, this is the year where we're wondering if recreational marijuana will finally be legalized here in New Mexico. And that's a hot topic issue.
It is a hot topic.
Chair just a little bit this
okay.
way. There you go. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, as someone, I must disclose, I do work occasionally for a cannabis consultant. Mm-hmm. And no jokes aside, it's fun to consult on cannabis. Mm-hmm. But I do personally, and the industry, the legal cannabis industry, is really going behind the scenes to prevent the full legalization. There's a 450 plant limit per producer in New Mexico. And the one thing the governor did say that's smart is if we bring in more producers and we get rid of the 450 plant limit, what are we going to do so we're not the next Oregon, where you can't export your extra product? Right. But I think it's going to flip. If it was up to a general election, it's over 60% in New Mexico. Right. And it's just not framed correctly. The last governor we had was a paper lobbyist. Mm-hmm. She was the Republican Governors Association, key governor. Right. That's the Cope brothers, the Republican Governors Association. The RGA or whatever, it's just a Koch brothers. That's how they get to write checks and have them do what they want. Right. But she was their head, and she line item vetoed the cannabis legislation. She sure did. She was a mess, but it's a new day, so there's momentum already in the House. There are a few key senators who are trying to contort themselves to hold their nose to maybe vote for this legislation, but right now I'd say all signs are pointing to go. They are for legalized marijuana here in New Mexico. Dave, what do you think about that? I think all signs are go. But I did speak to somebody in the industry, and I said, hey, why aren't so-and-so, who happen to be Democratic, I'm not going to say if they're in the House, what they are, they're Democrats and they are elected. I said, why are they holding it out? They've been in the office for years. They have secure blue things. They said the Catholic Church is giving a lot of behind-the-scenes pushback to the Democratic Party again. They are. And the people I know who are quote-unquote in the know of us, they said that somebody said to the Catholic Church, listen, stop it with this moral authority. We heard pervert-ass preachers y'all got. And I will say it frankly, we have one. They send them to New Mexico. Right. When they get busted in Philadelphia, D.C., all those guys ended up in Native American reservations. Right. And then it's just disgusting. And then now they're moralizing on cannabis. Light that up.
I know, yeah. So you're on Call the Reason CTR on the side. This is our Thursday edition. This is also, since we don't podcast on Wednesdays, we're also making this our Weed Watch Wednesday edition as well. We're advocating for the legalization of marijuana in New Mexico. Those of us who are medical cannabis card holders, we know that it's still too expensive, and the price it's medicine, and they should just open it up so everyone can drive the price down like they have everywhere else.
I was at a place with I won't say the guy's name. He works at a big Fortune 50 company. He's got multiple sclerosis. He uses cannabis to help him. And he does CBD during the day, and then the CBD THC when the poor baby's in pain.
Right.
And he drives from Santa Fe here sometimes to Colorado because of the difference in the price. The price, I mean, I don't know what it is around the country. I know New Mexico, and I know the industry, and I know the Catholic Church is, they're trying to hold some kind of referendum on, they're calling it Protect Our Children Against something. And that didn't go over well.
Well, again, until they get that pedophilia piece worked out, don't be a group.
And once again, I have nothing. I'm sure you'd love us to against the Catholic Church.
Nothing at all.
They have the 99% rule. 99% of their priests are good people. The 1% is running the show, but they're horrific abusers. Right. And the Catholic Church does a lot of good. They just need to clean house before they tell some, elected officials that we're going to, go against the legal marijuana with the Protect the Children initiative.
Yeah, they got to tighten it up, brother.
And they write checks in this state.
They got to tighten it up, man.
They write checks, and they do it, and it's crazy. They write a lot of checks in this state, don't they?
They do.
They do. We won't mention who we know. Up until about 10 years ago, the Catholic Church really pushed around the Democrat and the Republican Party here in New Mexico. Badly. It was basically with the Boston the diocese scandal and the Los Angeles scandal. When that hit, people started pushing back because every one of the New Mexico abusers started in either, it was a Philadelphia diocese. The only reason I know it is because I was with some people and they were bitching about the Catholic Church in the political context, not bitching whatsoever about a church and what they do. You and I don't care what anybody does. Whatever religion, creed, anything you want. Whatever brings you peace. But, geez. And what's going on in Mitch McConnell?
Well, okay, so, Dave, we're going to go over some news now.
Okay.
Listen, first of all, Mitch McConnell, for the third time since the Democrats have had control of Congress, he has refused to allow a vote on ending the shutdown, knowing that there are enough Republicans right now who will vote yes, and therefore isolate Donald Trump and put the blame and put the shutdown on his desk and his desk alone.
Yes.
For some reason, Mitch McConnell and a number of other Republicans have also been towing the president's falsehood-filled line on immigration and the impact of the wall and the importance of the wall in the overall context of border security. Folks, I'm going to keep saying it because, truth and honesty and reality are so important. It's the tunnels, stupid. They keep finding the tunnels. Everyone knows that the big loads are coming in either through legal ports of entry or tunnels. They're not coming across the border in like willy-nilly, randomly, just in an open spot in the wall like Trump keeps insinuating, nor are gang members and bad guys. All that criminal activity is happening, through tunnels and legal ports of entry. And so literally the people coming across the border, sneaking across, are folks who just don't understand the process of applying for asylum somehow. But 9 out of 10 of these folk are just people who are simply trying to improve their life somehow.
It's more than 9 out of 10. And, Trump saying these gangs are making millions of dollars, they have these crazy weapons. Believe me, if they had that, wouldn't they just get a fake passport and fly first class here? No one is going.
Well, yes,
we
because
live
that's
in
what
New
they
Mexico.
do. That's my point. It's like they're coming in through tunnels. They're coming in on airplanes.
That's how they're coming in.
Again, the reality is a wall will do nothing, Dave.
No, I mean
to stop.
No.
Because at the end of the day, folks, red pill reality check time for you.
Bing.
8 out of every 10. I'm going to say it again. And you can just Google it if you don't believe. You don't have to believe me, but just Google it. 8 out of every 10 illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants in America are people who overstayed their legal visa.
Oh, yes.
They got in on legally, and then they just didn't do the paperwork and never went home.
And Google it.
8 out of 10, y'all. A wall won't stop that either. It's the tunnels, stupid. If you want to put money into really border security, put the money where we just need it. Beef up. Hire as many people as you can for the ports of entry so they can inspect stuff more. Invest in greater technology to inspect stuff coming through the ports of entry, because we know that's where all the big stuff's coming.
Yeah, and Google out there, Cult of Reason fans, Google how many shipping containers get a full search that come through the port. What is the percentage?
Right.
It's pretty scary.
And keeping it with the reality that Donald Trump didn't even spend the money that they gave him on border security for technology and other personnel and other measures that could have been taken at the legal ports of entry where we have these huge problems, where we know that's where it's coming in, okay?
Exactly.
Using technology to discover and eradicate tunnels, which is where a huge portion of drugs coming under the border, not over it. Drugs aren't pouring over the border. Drugs are pouring under the border. That's reality, Dave.
Drugs are coming in.
Is that not?
Yeah.
It's coming in
commercially.
Right.
They're coming in shipping containers.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming in shipping containers, and everyone knows it. But there's no way you can inspect 2 million shipping containers a month in the Long Beach, Los Angeles port. Or whatever.
And Dave, let me go back to McConnell real quick. Folks, I'm rebranding this thing. A lot of folks have been calling this the Trump shutdown. It's still going. But I'm calling it, but we're going to put it out, though. The Trump and the Trump and the McConnell. This is the Trump-McConnell shutdown. It's the Trump-McConnell shutdown, and it's the Trump-McConnell shutdown because Mitch McConnell, for the third time, refuses to isolate Trump by putting a bill on his desk that has passed both houses of Congress.
He put his cards with Trump, who would dump him in a second.
Well, and he's doing so because we know that he and Lindsey Graham and a number of the other senators, all of whom have voted. In fact, we know that there are only 11 United States senators left in the Republican Party who have not been corrupted or flipped or somehow blackmailed even by the Russian government.
Yeah, I mean, that's
because there were only 11 of them that voted to uphold the sanctions against a Russian company and a Russian oligarch very closely tied to the Kremlin. Donald Trump got the instructions from Putin. This guy needs to get his sanctions lifted because we got some deals going on. Y'all fucking our shit up. So Trump did it. And then the Senate could have easily voted to rebuke that and to stop it. But there have been enough Republican senators bought off or blackmailed or somehow under the control of Russians, along with Trump, to allow that to go forward and held that vote while not holding a vote to put 800,000 plus American federal workers, along with another 1 million or 2 of support service workers in America, back to work. They won't vote on that, but they will vote to lift sanctions on Russia.
Oh, of course. I mean,
that's priorities for you folks.
Hold on, but listen,
and that is, if Anyone who doesn't now say, wow, that makes it seem like the Republicans are more for the Russians than for American workers and federal workers. Folks, that's what common sense would have you think. If you think differently, you might want to go to the doctor and get checked, see if you're in the coma.
All right, then I'm going to the doctor only because I don't think it's 100. I don't know if it's Russian control. I can't go that far yet until, I just want to be just, conservative.
What American patriot would vote to do anything for motherfucking Russia at a time like this, Dave?
Well, here's this. I think
at a time like that, I'm not talking about some other time when Russia's not the top thing on everybody's mind, but given the stakes on Russia right now, why would you have your name associated with anything to help Russia and a Russian oligarch already being sanctioned for interfering with our free democracy, man?
I get that. I just don't think it's
that
patriot
far. Would do
Hold on. What I think is any of these guys, they just want to hold on to their office as long as they can. They don't give a shit either way. What I really think is,
but that's the problem, bro.
Is if they go against Trump on this, they'll get primaried out. They'll lose. They're
going to lose anyway, man.
But they're not going to lose.
And they're twice
in their districts.
Yes, well, the senators are. There are twice as many senators up for re-election as House members.
That's wild.
I mean, as Republicans, as Democrats, and so
wild.
It doesn't matter if they get primaried or not. In fact, I hope they don't get primaried because then the voters won't have a fresh Republican face to choose from. They'll have the motherfucker that need to be voted out to vote out.
That's a great point, but I really do think it's being afraid of being primaried. I just don't think the Russians can influence that many of the Republic. No, they can't.
Well,
not on this. They would save it for something bigger.
They've definitely got Lindsey Graham. They've definitely got Mitch McConnell. They've definitely got John Cornyn. Again, you look at the senators that towed his water, and you look at their connections to Russia themselves.
Yeah, you make a great point.
And you look at the fact that this, and when you really understand their connection to Russia, and you come to realize that in fact none of these are Johnny-come-lately relationships.
No.
These are relationships that have been cultivated like for 10, 12 years.
Yeah, more.
Okay, seriously.
McConnell, how long has he been
now
around?
We know the NRA has been complicit in it this whole time as well. So these are not Johnny-come-late. Trump was just like their coup de grace. They've been cultivating this stuff. If you watch that TV show on FX, The Americans, y'all, that show really gives you, like, the more I watch that show, the more it looks like what's happening in reality today. And the Russians, and when you look at the turmoil in the UK as well, this country's upside down, the UK's upside down. Vladimir Putin's lifetime dream is coming true right now. He could not be having a more pleasing time.
I can't argue that point. You're so right. It's all coming through for him.
Everything he was born and bred to do, which is the destruction of Western coalitions, and to know that Donald Trump actually seriously considered trying to pull out of NATO. Okay, just to run down the list of Putin agenda items that Trump has succeeded in, lifting sanctions on oligarchs and individual companies.
I have no way to defend that.
Calling.
Oh no!
Hold on.
Ukraine.
Hold on. Standing in front of the world, standing next to Putin, in Helsinki, saying out loud that he disagreed with our own intelligence community, and basically Putin said he didn't interfere and he didn't see any reason why he would. Then, knowing he got on the Air Force One. From that meeting, called up the New York Times, got a reporter on the phone, and proceeded to spend however long, an hour, trying to convince them why it was believable that Putin didn't interfere based on his conversation. He basically called up the New York Times to convince them on Putin's behalf. That Putin was, this is the President of the United States.
I know, that's
calling from Air Force One.
Yeah,
calling from Air Force One. Okay, so then
he used his real name. He didn't go as John Miller.
Yeah. Then he comes. Good point. Then he comes back home And he continues to, be shocked that the world is completely appalled by his performance and doubles down on everything. And since then, he's lifted sanctions. He has continued to sneak around. He has confiscated all notes and interpreter notes so that no one knows what he and Putin have said to each other. I've been saying this whole time. Every time he talks to Putin, he's just getting instructions on what to do next. And I keep saying now that if Nancy Pelosi wants to open the government, she needs to stop fucking around with Trump and just go around him and deal with Putin directly.
Yeah, or just
deal with Putin directly.
I just want to know if it's a PP tape or if it's what they originally thought they would bring Trump down was his organized crime connections in the building industry in New York City, which is allegedly there's organized crime in New York City building and concrete and waste disposal. Would you believe that?
I would.
So that's what they thought would bring them down, but is it the same mob that's Putin's part of?
Well, I don't know. And what I do know though
Trump had to pay him off to build.
What I do know is that on that issue, we're just going to have to continue to let reality introduce itself. Like Rudy Giuliani moving the goalpost yesterday on collusion that'll probably be in the news all the way till Monday. But I'm pretty much, I laughed when I saw it. I got a clip set being developed for the show Sunday morning. So we can play quotes that really make we're really going to show you how ridiculous this is, how they tried to move the goalpost on this. No one's buying it. And it seems to me like the desperation is totally dug in, Dave, because now they're trying to create a narrative that's so far detached from reality that when Mueller and other sources, because keep in mind, Robert Mueller's report is under the jurisdiction of the Attorney General and the Justice Department, but not anything that's happening in the Southern District of New York is. You get what I'm saying? They don't need the Attorney General's permission to
Cohen has not.
He's not done.
Yeah, I'm saying Cohen is not. He is not shown up for jail yet. So they have between now and that day to make the ultimate deal.
And speaking of Cohen, I'm gonna zip through a few topics, but I'm gonna stop Cohen here. I'm gonna go to Cohen now, since you brought him up, Dave.
Yes.
Listen, a couple things about Cohen. Number one, he's testifying for Congress on the House Oversight Committee on February 7th. We know that he had to obtain permission from Robert Mueller to do that.
Yes.
Because he is pending sentencing.
Yeah.
And we know that Mueller has given him permission to discuss whatever it is he's going to. So whatever it is he's going to say, Robert Mueller gave him permission to say it.
Yeah.
And so
I want to know what the
and the reason why I'm saying that is because Mueller, given that he's pending sentences, we already know that what he did. What did Robert Mueller do? Robert Mueller pulled back on Paul Manafort's deal because he was still a fucking liar, and he's going to nail him to the wall until he gets the real deal. Or he's just going to let him sit in jail. He don't give a fuck.
He doesn't give a shit.
Okay. Now, so we know that behind closed doors, Paul Manafort fucked himself up by continuing to lie. And now he's going to do worse. It's going to be way worse on him. So now, having not been sentenced also, Michael Cohen, it's also illegal to lie under oath to Congress.
It's called a felony, not a misdemeanor.
No, that's a felony.
That is a felony. If you
lie under oath to Congress.
And when you deal with the judge in the chambers, I believe it's under oath.
So, anytime you're under oath in a court of law, or when you're talking to a federal law enforcement, the FBI, or when you are under oath in Congress, that's a felony to lie. So in other words, Michael Cohen already seen what Manafort's going through. There's no way he's going to go in front of Congress and say anything that could even remotely be a lie. Because Robert Mueller could be like, come here, young man. Come here, young man.
And Mueller's no nonsense. Ex-Marine.
Go straight to it. So my point is, on the converse, the flip side of that coin, Dave, in addition to what I just said, that I don't think he'd say anything that other than what was truthful because he knows that Mueller's standing over his shoulder ready to fucking pull his deal.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
or the Southern District of New York, you get what I'm saying?
I would like to see
they're ready to pull his shit. Hold on. On the flip side of that coin, to reinforce that, we know that if Mueller approved his testimony and what he's allowed to talk about and what he's allowed to say, that's only because Mueller has his own corroborating evidence to know that that is truthful as well. So we, as American citizens, y'all, will know that anything Michael Cohen says before Congress will come with. Now, he's not going to bring it with him, but you got to know that there won't be a single thing he says that Robert Mueller doesn't have as corroborating evidence and documentation to back it up.
That's a great point. That's
the only way he can go before Congress and go through the grilling we know he's going to go through and have to walk through the landmine of questions that he's going to have to dance through and do the, what do they call that shit when you go through under the stick?
The limbo.
The limbo. Yeah, he's going to do all that shit to get through that testimony.
Will Cohen have an
attorney? But when he does, I don't know, but probably so, but my point is, you know that everything he says
is true.
And he's probably going to say it a few times. He's probably going to say, well, if you don't believe me, I'm sure, I know for a fact that Special Counsel Mueller has corroborating evidence to what I'm saying.
That's a brilliant point. Great point, Love.
So on both cases, he definitely don't want to lie because he don't want to get his plea deal yanked. Plus, we know it's going to be the truth because Mueller's got the backup.
Oh, I mean, Trump must...
Trump. Oh, come February 8th, Trump's Twitter, he might break a record for tweeting on
Or Trump's going to do something crazy like shave his head live. And no one will watch Mueller and Cohen.
Right.
No one will watch Mueller. What could... Oh, Trump is...
So that's all I have said about Cohen right now. Except that Cohen also did reveal today, and of course this will be discussed in Congress in detail, that he, at Donald Trump's direction, on his behalf, paid a polling firm associated with Liberty University, Gerald Falwell Jr., to pay them to create these fake poll data in order to influence the election as well. And so,
is that illegal?
Oh no, it's just cheating. It's cheating. It smacks in the face of draining the swamp. It's cheating. It's not the American way. No. And in some instances, there may be some illegalities. And the only reason why we found out about it, and that's verified, and we know Michael Cohen is telling the truth, is because they're suing him because he didn't pay them all the money, and now they want the rest of the money.
That's crazy. This is real.
So we know that's also factual. And all these dirt, that's not draining the swamp. That's criminal, unethical, mob, gang-related type activity, y'all. That's what MS-13 would do. This kind of shit MS-13 would be doing.
No, because they probably have leadership at the top that they respect. Well, the Republicans lost respect for Trump.
Well, I can tell you that Republicans are speaking out more and more. Even Lindsey Graham, can't resist himself sometimes. He smacked Trump down on his move to yank Nancy Pelosi's travel today, that an hour before the plane was supposed to take off. Now, I'm getting conflicting reports, so we're going to have to do a little bit more research. But I've heard, Dave, that she had already canceled the trip herself because of what needs to be done in Congress on Tuesday. And
I'm sure she's going to say that. They're going to say the other.
And so really he made a big deal about something that had already been taken care of, and then he got a bunch of Republicans to jump on board and be like, how dare she leave the country knowing the government is shut down instead of handling the government? Like she had already concluded that and canceled the trip herself. And if that is actually the case and comes out, it can be proven, then they're all going to look like the idiots they are.
They don't care.
We'll stay tuned on that. But yes, that was in response, though, him canceling her trip. And even Lindsey Graham rebuked Trump for postponing Pelosi's trip, and he did so on a national security concern because the trip was secret. She was flying into a war zone, and Trump busted out her plans, and it was really like a presidential executive power breach of national security just to shit on somebody because they actually had a credible security concern about a State of the Union during the government shutdown.
And that's not so credible, but they should be paid. Well, I don't like the word should.
They should be paid.
But you can't ask.
But you can't continue to run the country like you run your business, which is expect people to do shit for you and not get paid. I mean, everybody knows that's Trump business style. I mean, there's still 3,000 lawsuits pending against the Trump organization for failure to pay for work that has been performed, y'all. Google it.
Yes.
Google it. It's real.
Yeah, of course.
It's real. So at the end of the day, you just got to be honest about it. This guy he's a con man, and he rips people off, and now he's trying to run the country the way he runs his bullshit ass business. Shifting gears to Puerto Rico, just found out today that he actually did everything he could to order Mick Mulvaney, who was at that time his budget director, along with then Chief of Staff John Kelly, to shift every single dollar away from Puerto Rico during the height of the Hurricane Maria recovery and put all the money in Florida and Texas. He didn't want a single dollar to go to Puerto Rico. And now he's looking for a way to raid Puerto Rico now. And you know what? Even his Republicans are quietly telling him, you declare an emergency, dude, you pretty much going to be on your own. We will send a fucking bill from the Senate, passed by both houses, on to your desk. And then you alone will have to explain to the American people why our economy is going into the tank. Because if we go another week of this shit, if we go a full 30 days, folks, the next quarter we're going to have an upside down GDP. Our economy will be in recession, and knowing we're this close, they keep pulling back on when it's going to happen. They keep shortening the time for when it's going to happen. But when the fucking yield curve inverts, we're fucked.
Yeah, a lot of people. I know the inverse curve, the inverse yield curve, and there's a whole cult of it with the NPR and the Planet Money people. But it's really scary. It's scary stuff.
It is. So just want to remind everybody, and thank you for being here. You're on Call to Reasons, CTR on the side, Thurssday podcast. I'm here with my main man, Dave Packard. He's sitting in for Beth today. He's here in the Santa Fe studio with us. And we're talking about what's happening. The shutdown, of course, is on everyone's mind. We're in day 27. Donald Trump is not going to budge. This is going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. And unfortunately, the very people who really can't afford for shit to get any worse are going to be the ones to bear the brunt of this.
Well, that, of course.
And keep in mind, as a little bit of a red pill reality check, that when America catches an economic cold, black people catch an economic pneumonia. And, all the gains that, Trump likes to brag about, what he got for black folks and lowest unemployment in black history and all blah, 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 blah. All that shit will be the first to go away when this shit all crashes and burns, y'all.
No, this is, and it's not just African. It's every person without economic means, without a safety social net. I mean, it's economic, like patricide or something. I just don't know how you do this as the leader of a country. I mean, over a wall.
Right. Over a wall.
And I understand what that represents.
Over a wall that is in no way, shape, or form the panacea or the ultimate solution for this immigration crisis that doesn't exist at the border. There is an immigration problem that we have not resolved. There is immigration reform that needs to be done. There are rules that need to be changed. There are processes that need to be streamlined and improved. There are security measures that need to be upgraded.
Yeah.
But in some instances, I will, as a fair-minded American, acknowledge that in some instances, in obvious places, there may be, some fencing that might be useful.
Oh, of course, no one disputes.
But to say that our government should shut down,
so crazy,
and these people out of work, and then the millions that support them out of work, losing money, the economy slowing down because no one has a nickel to spend on anything that isn't absolutely essential. So no movies, no eating out, no extra at Walmart, no road trips, no hotel stuff, no none of that. All that shit's out the window, and that has a huge impact quickly. And the vendors, they just estimated, Dave, that the contractors and support services for those 800,000 federal workers, and more importantly, the departments that are shut down right now, 200 million a week is being lost in the U.S. economy because of the Trump shutdown. And that's also a red pill reality check, y'all. 200 million a week.
And can I add something?
Go ahead.
And people talk about the 800,000 federal workers, and then they say, oh, the contractors. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, what has gone on, not really Reagan so much, but the older Bush was the privatization of a lot of government services. Mm-hmm. So when they say the contractors, a lot of stuff like auditing, accounting, a lot of that's now handled private by, on contract basis. So none of these people are working right now, and with the privatization of government and the government workers out of work, it's really getting very serious.
And next week, EBT and SNAP benefits it run out because there's no one there to administrate the program. So millions of people on food stamps, millions of housing vouchers. For Section 8 and other affordable housing won't go paid, and landlords will have a choice to wait on the government or kick these people out. You're talking about the longer this drags on, it becomes not only just about 800,000 people and then support services not getting paychecks. You talk about life disruptions that go into the tens and double digit of millions of people, Americans who are innocent bystanders.
Oh, people get their hair cut less.
In a temper tantrum.
Little things you don't think about. We're talking about the economic impact.
And so there's so many downsides. And this great deal maker, Donald Trump, the art of deal, Mr. Art of the Deal, he has backed himself, thanks to Laura Ingraham, Rush Limbaugh, and Sean Hannity, into a corner that he will not be able to get out because Nancy Pelosi has become his real daddy. I mean, for real. Nancy Pelosi is not going to budge. She has the moral authority here. She has the moral advantage. The American people agree with her. No one can wrap their brain around why there's all this suffering and about to now be an economic downturn in this country over a wall.
Over a wall. Furthermore, Pelosi.
Over a wall. And how Mr. Art of the Deal can't get it done as a deal. And it's because Mr. Art of the Deal is a con man fraud. Another example of that, just reading an article from CNBC saying the U.S. officials now are debating and considering lifting the sanctions on China in order to get a trade deal done. Yeah. A whole season of crops gone. Yeah. Farmers still saying that the relief they got from Trump, they came buy a can of beer with, it came get a 6-pack with that.
And now it's planting season.
And it's planting season. And even if he gave in and capitulated to China entirely, commodities, whoo, y'all need to understand. Pick up a book, ladies and gentlemen. This is why y'all watch Call the Reason, though, because I do. Commodities, that's the word we use for agriculture. Commodities. They're traded on their own market.
Mm-hmm.
They're called futures. And they're traded short term and way out into the future. Trump's trade war has fucked up soybean futures, for example.
Yes.
In the United States for the next 5 years. Even if he gives in completely to China, capitulates, which he's going to have to do now. Sounds like they're considering, oh, we didn't mean it. We didn't mean it. We didn't mean it. And then China will stop putting that foot up in our ass. Because that's all that's been happening. And Trump keeps bragging about all the money the U.S. Treasury's been, the billions and billions we've getting from our trade tariffs. That mother... Again, let's read it. Let's pick up a book every now and then, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you again for being here on Call to Reason's CTR Thurssday Thursday with me and Dave Packard, my special guest. Dave, commodities markets fucked up. Soybeans, we won't see another soybean. It's going to be hard for American farmers to sell soybeans to the big players for the next 5 to 10 years. China is going to keep buying their soybeans in South America.
And Russian
soybeans are flooding the market now. Yeah. And if they find that they like those products better than the American version, we'll never get them back. So Trump has ruined agriculture for a lot of struggling farmers, and what he's done is done so again at the request of, and perfectly so on behalf of, agribusiness, the Monsantos of the world, the Koch brothers of the world. They will survive the shift. They will figure out a way to move their products. But
they're selling seeds there too.
But the family farms, the family farms, they're running them out of business. And Trump is helping agribusiness do that. He is deliberately helping. And he's helping the Russians too, because they needed a boost in their agribusiness. And Trump has given them one by ruining ours.
Yeah, and can I just add,
please,
when people freak out, you see farmers sometimes freak out, and they're very conservative voting bloc. And if you do see them freak out, it's because right now it's planting season, and they rely on the U.S. government satellite services that are done through the internet to tell them what to plant, where to plant, and and the government workers aren't there to answer their questions.
Now, and the farmers who are waiting on relief checks aren't getting them because the government's closed.
Yeah, the government's and
it's planting season.
Yeah, people don't know in the real quote unquote the agro-America, planting season it's the most stressful time of their life, because sometimes they get a report from the government that says, you're going to go 30% corn this year based on the prediction of rain and the alkalinity in your soil, and these guys are freaking out. They're not getting it, or they're going to get it late, and they could miss a whole year. Right. So, folks, one other huge and frustrating and enraging, outrageous impact of this shutdown. Okay. This country declared its freedom on July 4th, 1776. We declared ourselves a free nation. We created a Bill of Rights and a basic set of rules of governance. And we went about convening a constitutional Congress and establishing a permanent constitution and rules of governance for this country. And we organized an army, and states organized militias, and people committed to freedom, real patriots, organized themselves. A ragtag group of folk determined to be free fought for it and won the freedom of this nation. It made what was written on the paper a reality. Now, 1776 to today is
242 years, almost 243 years come July. 242 years we've been in existence. And never, not since George Washington crossing the Delaware, trying to figure out how to feed soldiers and keep them warm in the dead of winter. Not even in that moment, not even in those times, has America ever failed to give a military person a paycheck.
Oh.
Not in 242 years has America ever failed to deliver on the promise to the people putting their lives on the line for the freedom that we enjoy. Not ever has America failed to pay those who serve with their lives. And folks, if you haven't noticed, the Coast Guard is the number one line of defense we really have for our borders, given this whole nation is one partial peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
On the east and west coast, up and down, all coastline. In the Gulf, all coastline. 2/3 of this country is surrounded by water. Y'all, 2/3.
Most of the population
is surrounded by water.
Yeah, almost all.
The Coast Guard is our last and first line of coastal defense. They're the ones that are busting billions of dollars of dope. They're the ones capturing bad guys. They're the ones saving people.
That's what they. Hey, big ups to my Rod Gus's
The
brother.
Coast Guard, y'all, plays such a vital role in this country. And they are one of the 5 branches of the United States military. And for the first time in 242 years, even before we had won the war against England and they gave up and we now were officially a country, even before we were officially a country, we have never not paid the people who keep us free.
Yeah, that's why they made the rule.
And Donald Trump loves to throw that word around. Let me start this. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me a sec. I need to get the Instagram folks back online because they want to be here with us too. They want to be here with us too. And, okay, here we go. So we're back on Instagram, and thank you for your indulgence. And thank everyone who's here with us. You're on Call the Reason, CTR on the Side, Thurssday edition with me and my main man, Dave Packard. Dave, never in the 242-year history of this country have we not paid our military. No matter how bad times were, no matter what was going on, not during the Great Depression, not ever have we not paid our military. And that, to me, since Donald Trump loves to throw around this word disgrace, if there's ever been a disgrace, then that certainly is.
Yeah, these
one.
People who do not have fake bone spurs.
Right.
The Coast Guard, they're up in Alaska monitoring satellites for us and radar. You know, that is like he said, the last line of defense. Mm-hmm. Who's up there when you go on a boat? Who saves you? I mean, mm-hmm. And they're not getting paid. It's not like they're making that much money in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
it's outrageous.
And what's going to happen is that a lot of they're really scared that the military families will go to these payday loaning places to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Dave is outrageous.
It's outrageous.
It's outrageous, and what's going to happen is Americans are going to have to stand up. Now, I'm still convinced that by August, we're just going to wake up one day and, you know, like I keep, you haven't heard this, but you're going to love this because you think this way too. This is why I have Dave here, y'all, because Dave thinks this way. What I'm about to say, Dave has probably thought it, but he just hadn't said it out loud. Okay? All right. So here's what I imagine. And I'm actually kind of predicting. I'm imagining and predicting, Dave, that we'll wake up. So it's almost like a Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so put yourself in the mindset of a Spielberg film.
Okay.
Okay, but like E.T. Spielberg, like old school.
Okay.
Suburban home, beautiful white, beautiful brick home, traditional dark shutters, red front door,
Okay.
fade into the, Cocker Spaniel asleep by the fire as it's going out.
Okay.
Up the steps, little Jimmy and Johnny snug in their beds. Mom and Dad peacefully, snuggle in. And all of a sudden, Dad's phone goes off with a notification. Blitz. Deep, 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 deep. Then all of a sudden, Mom's phone goes off. Boop, 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 boop. They both pop up, look at their phones. And then they cut to another bedroom. Mom and Dad, same thing. Phones going off, picking up their phone. Okay. And all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. All over the world, phones are going off.
Right.
So people in Egypt are looking at their phones in the daytime. People in Hong Kong are looking at their phones. It's like all over the world.
All right.
Simultaneously, phones go off. Trump and Pence resign.
Who could give them immunity from prosecution if they resigned together? Federal prosecution.
Everyone could.
They could?
And everyone would.
But would Pence resign, or does he think that the same...
It doesn't matter what he thinks.
You think he's got to...
I think it won't matter. I think it won't matter. I think that all of them... and that's what I've been trying to say. Mueller is so meticulous.
Man, he is the old...
That, keep in mind, as long as he has an investigation going. And folks, this is what none of y'all get either. But again, this is why you watch and listen to Call to Reason. Because we do. Let's take the case of Michael Cohen. Okay. Mueller saw something there that he said, okay, now, I don't have time to fuck with this Michael Cohen shit. And it's really not even something I need to be doing. So I'm going to flip this bitch over here to the Southern District. And I'm going to let them deal with it. Because I believe they will. And then they'll flip shit back to me so I can, end it all and wrap it up. But I'm going to let them deal with it. Now, as long as his investigation is going, keep in mind, he got the grand jury extended another 6 months. Robert Mueller's meticulous. He's been prosecuting criminals for 40 years. You can't replace experience. Okay? Here's what's really happening. This is why I need to be on CNN, MSNBC, all these other, because nobody is saying this. But it's real. Robert Mueller already knows that whether it's Matt Whitaker, whether it's William Barr, whether it's Jeff Sessions, whether it's fucking Ronald McDonald, anybody that Donald Trump has as Attorney General is going to somehow thwart and help Trump cheat the report.
Oh, of course.
Prove me wrong, based on what's already happened and what evidence we have in front of us today. You can't. We already know that that's what they're going to do. They're going to immediately try to claim executive privilege on all the juiciest shit, redact everything, and then try to put out some vanilla shit, and then come up with a rebuttal to stuff we can't even see for ourselves. They're just going to tell us what it was, paraphrase it in their language, and then rebut it to try to make it seem like it's bullshit. All a big circus. Okay? All a big circus. But imagine if you look at the timeline on what happened from the time Robert Mueller flipped Michael Cohen to Southern District, New York, how quickly that process went and what came back. It was less than 6 months. He's got 6 months more now in grand jury. Here's what's really going to happen, y'all. Now that Mueller has forced Trump to play his hand out, now that he's forced, and notice you haven't heard a peep from any of his other lawyers.
Exactly.
Giuliani's the only one you hear from, and the ones behind the scenes working, They're not making any headway with Mueller, man. He's got them boxed in so fucking tight. And here's the thing. Now, Mueller, he's treading water. He has his whole thing. He has the whole puzzle in front of him. He's assembled it 50 different times already. You know how you master a puzzle, you get the box, you put it together the first time, and you break it apart. You see how fast you can put it together again, and you keep putting it back together. Okay. And so Mueller has the puzzle totally figured out. Now guess what he's going to do? He's going to start parsing out the shit to other fucking federal prosecutors all over the country where appropriate. And he's basically going to parse out his report in criminal cases to these federal prosecutors before he delivers his report to the Attorney General. So that the Attorney General has no control over those. He cannot intervene to tell a federal prosecutor, stop sending a criminal to jail. That's how Michael Cohen got caught up in how Sessions or Rosenstein, none of them could do anything about it because you just can't do that.
When the cat's out of the bag.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, so Mueller,
that's a great point.
part of his capability that Trump can't touch is the ability to refer criminal cases to goddamn prosecutors. And don't you think when he really sees how they're trying to shut him down or that they're going to do some shit, that's his go. That's his out. He can push it to the prosecutors where appropriate and put them all in jail anyway.
Wow, that's a great way to end. How do you say put them all in jail
anyway? And that's why I think Trump and Pence are going to resign because he's going to lay it out in front of both of them.
Pence's wife
through the federal prosecutors. He's going to refer to a prosecutor somewhere. They're going to get a hold of the White House and say, we're getting ready to drop a bomb on your ass. And they're going to start with Pence because that's how they got to Nixon. They made an example out of Spiro Agnew first.
That's a good point. Yeah, I was going to say Pence's wife, don't forget.
And no one is saying that the vice president can't be prosecuted because one has already been.
Yes, of course. That's a great point.
They're going to start with Pence. And then once they got Pence in a vice, and mother tells him, you better start talking, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, dude, Mueller is way smarter than Trump. He's way smarter than Giuliani. He's way smarter than any attorney Trump has hired. And he's got the power to refer charges to other prosecutors like he did Michael Cohen. And look at what happened. Like he did Paul Manafort, and look at what happened. Like he did Rick Gates, and look at what happened. Like, I'm just telling y'all.
Manafort lied to him. Oh.
Mueller has way more cards to play than you get.
Yes, and may I just add one thing?
Please.
Think of any of your neighbors who are retired military, whose lawn is perfect, whose car is clean,
American flag is starched.
in the right, American flag is starched. Every little, fork is in the fork thing. The spoons are in the spoons. That is Mueller, a real American hero.
Mm-hmm. Real American hero.
Yeah.
Now I want to touch one more thing before we close tonight. Reading a story here in Politico magazine, but I've seen it all over today. The Trump administration separated thousands more migrant families than previously known. Thousands.
Their excuse was, we don't have any way to keep records on that. We never thought to.
And keep in mind, folks, Trump, while signing the criminal justice reform bill, claiming he wanted to reduce this massive prison population we have of Americans, well, yeah, I all for it. Really happy he signed the bill. Really happy it got through. But he's replacing American citizens that are incarcerated in private prisons, especially with immigrants. He's just swapping them out. He's cut a deal with the private prison industry. He's taking FEMA disaster relief money to keep up with the pace of immigrants that he's imprisoning.
They're separating families.
And it has been reported by the Department of Health and Human Services, thousands more children have been separated from their families than we first revealed. We thought it was 1,400 or something. It's thousands more, not
for
hundreds.
a longer period of time.
And
I'm
for
sorry
a
to
way,
interrupt.
yes.
For a
Please.
way, I mean, you're separating moms. I mean, think of any of your neighbors.
Since the very beginning, Jeff Sessions implemented the policy from day one, and since 2017 they were doing it.
Oh, and that was...
And thousands more children have been separated from their families. So the real record is, we don't even know what the actual number is because they're still trying to disseminate the actual number.
How
but
many
it could
thousands?
be 30,000.
But what is the number, Loveless? Do you know the number that... Does it have to be 100,000 or more
It was
for the
14
evangelicals to abandon Trump? What is the number of kids separated from their parents before hypocritical evangelicals?
We knew about 14,000, Dave, and now they're saying there are thousands more.
Yeah,
than
maybe
that.
100,000.
It could be. They're saying it could be 30,000, 40,000 kids, man. And so again, Trump has populated, while he's signing the prison reform and the criminal justice reform bill to reduce the American prison population. He's going to increase the overall prison population. He'll probably double it with immigrants. You know, and the private prison industry is just alive and well and as happy as they can be. They don't give a shit who they lock up. They just want the bread. And the federal money, obviously, is just as reliable as any. So it's a very, very scary time, and we're very upside down here. And keep in mind, you know, we're hearing revelations about and really on a final note, when have you ever in 242 years had an American president have to actually say out loud that they were not an agent of our greatest adversary?
It's
never has it happened in American history.
You know what?
Donald Trump loves to talk about him doing the most in history and being the most of this and being the most. Well, I mean, he's making distinctions for himself that really, honestly, I would not be proud of.
No,
me personally.
Drunk. It's just disgusting.
It's awful. Anyway,
folks.
And
Nancy Pence. I know you're bringing it up on your show this weekend, but what about where she's working? A school that you have to pledge?
Right.
I mean, crazy. He'll take care of that this weekend. But we just want to say, that's Pence's wife.
I know. And she's the second lady of America, and she certainly doesn't represent us, but she's got the title. So we're definitely, make sure you tune in Sunday, by the way.
And buy John Oliver's book about the gay rabbit, not the Pence family rabbit.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it.
Support him.
Also, folks, I just want to thank you all. You've been here with me and my main man, Dave Packard, from TRC and now in Santa Fe. We are talking on Call to Reason's CTR on the side. Thurssday. This is our podcast, and I've enjoyed my time with you. Want to remind you, Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here in Santa Fe, 10 to noon on the East Coast, 7 to 9 on the West Coast, and 9 to 11 in the Central Time Zone. Call to Reason Reality Talk Radio, our live Sunday radio program, your weekly alternative to alternate reality. We're going to be in the building with you. Me and Beth will be back, and we may have one of our common sense conservatives on with us, because I've just been super geeked to get. I've been waiting to hear some defense of all this madness, and a lot of my conservative friends are quietly, privately telling me they're ready to look the other way while he goes. Oh, so anyway, that is my prediction. By August, my scene from a Spielberg movie is going to come true, and we're going to wake up, and we'll all be awakened in the middle of the night by a Trump and Pence resignation simultaneously. First time ever in the history of the country, because while Trump is creating all these other first time in the history of other countries, he's going to go out with a similar bang, and he's going to take Pence with him. I don't think they're going to make it to the ballot in 2020. I think Nancy Pelosi will be the placeholder president while the Democrats figure out who their nominee is going to be. And then the Republicans are going to have a crowded field of nominee. And I think the person that will emerge from that field is Ohio Governor John Kasich. Run the RNC right now. The Tea Party does.
Well, yeah, because
And-
they
and
can
when-
primary out anyone.
And
can't
when
they?
Trump goes,
I love
the
it.
cult goes, the Tea Party will be dead, and the establishment Republicans will be able to come back in and pick up the pieces, and they're going to nominate someone competitive. And John Kasich, if you do recall what establishment Republicans were like, is the epitome. John Kasich,
Yeah,
Mitt
right.
Romney, those guys are epitome establishment Republicans. And Kasich has such a success in Ohio with working class people and how he lifted Ohio from the recession, during his terms.
Yeah, despite what he did.
I'm not trying to
I know.
canonize Kasich.
No,
I
think the Democrats need to really
I disagree with him on a
progressive.
lot of stuff. But
Yeah,
Kasich is a common sense conservative that American middle independent voters he'll appeal to them, and he'll give the GOP a real shot at keeping the White House in 2020.
Yeah, and
He would. But the Democrats, I believe, have a lot of competitive potential as well. Kamala Harris looks strong. Beto O'Rourke, could come through. Biden could, take some Viagra.
could
and
the
get
Democrats
stronger.
run a progressive? Because Jimmy Dore, the comedian, who
Could
has
they
that
run a
show,
progressive? Yes,
he said,
they could run a progressive, but not Bernie. Bernie's too old.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Bernie's too. Bernie will be 80
well, I'm
years
just saying.
old.
I know it's not
No one
crazy.
wants to do
That's
that.
cool though.
No, it's
but
not.
no. I
it's
guess
not
yeah,
cool.
I got 80-year-old relatives.
Yeah, no, it's. I love my dad.
Actually,
He's
my
80.
dad is turning 80
My
this
dad
year.
is
He's like
80,
a big
but I would
kid.
not want him, and that's why I know I would not want an 80-year-old running the country. So no, we don't want that. I do want to
but a progressive, because what Jimmy Dore, the comedian, who's part of the Young Turks, says
Mhm.
is if you run a Republican against a Republican, people vote for the Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So you just can't vote. These blue dog Dems just
Mhm.
all have to go.
Yeah, we need a woman. A woman, and I believe it'll be a woman of color that will ultimately win.
Kamala?
Could be her,
Well,
could be, I don't know.
AOC?
I don't know.
She's so young. I mean, nobody cares
No, you have to
anymore.
be
in the-
35 to be the
Oh,
president.
won't
though.
she be? Oh, she's
29. No, I think that we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to make any predictions right now. But what I do want to say is thank you to everyone for being here with me and my main man, Dave. Before we go out, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor,
Of course.
K-She, the Zuni Connection, and the K-She Foundation. If you want to go in the store, they have a beautiful gallery right there, 227 Donka's Bar. And Robin and Bronwyn do a great job at curating the very, very best of traditional, authentic, handmade, direct from the artist, jewelry, fetishes, paintings, pottery, not pottery, but, fetish, sculptures, kachinas. They have it all, and the jewelry is absolutely exquisite. They have things for men and for women. I got this cuff, fellas.
Oh,
This
yeah.
beautiful copper cuff from K-She, the Zuni Connection.
Oh, and someone asked me, so I said just Google the Zuni Connection Santa Fe, and because they said, tell Love
Yeah.
to spell it.
Yeah, it's Keshi,
Yes.
and it's pronounced K-She, KESHI.com, Keshi.com, and the Keshi Foundation.org.
Okay, so
Y'all check them out. Their foundation, they're raising money, they're making moves, they're going to create opportunities for all of us to get involved in preserving that culture, and even the young people being able to be mentored and participate with the masters and make sure that the dying arts are kept alive through the next generations. Folks, you got to go check out their selection. If you're not in Santa Fe, go to keshi.com, KESHI.com. Shop there. You won't be disappointed. The prices are amazing, but more important, the love that you'll receive in the box along with your piece. It'll be with you for the rest of your life. Y'all check them out.
It's a great cause. It's just
And great store. Been around for 37 years.
words fail. Check it out.
And it feeds the people of the Zuni Pueblo.
Yes.
Robin and Bronwyn do a great job. And we hope you'll check them out and check them out soon. And make sure you tell them Call the Reason sent you. Thank you again for being here with us. tune in Sunday. We're going to have another great show. We'll be going through all the hot topics and the ones that are a little bit abstract. We're going to be breaking down these things the way we have today. And we hope you'll join us Sunday on Call to Reason. In the meantime, y'all have a great Thursday night. Peace.
Thursday. Peace. Yeah, somebody asked me how to spell Keishi. So I said Google Zoomy connection. It worked perfectly. They're really nice over there.
They're very nice. They're very nice. Good people.
Like your little buddy Heidi. She's so nice.
She is nice. 2 viewers on Twitter. Twitter's just catching on. 94. That's pretty good. Because it'll double, overnight.
Yeah, I was going to tell you.
I had like
same
90.
shirt.
I had 90. I forgot to tell you. That's a different shirt.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought it was the same one under it. Oh, different plaid shirt. You're right. That's a pretty shirt you're wearing in that one. Oh, is that the hat you said somebody bought you?
I had to give it to me.
What a nice hat.
This yesterday at this time when I finished, I had like 90, I don't know, 90 some views, 94 views, 89 views, something like that when I finished yesterday's podcast. This one,
Yeah, that's awesome.
it's got 323 now.
That's awesome.
The show, Sunday show, I came off the air. I had like 600. I've got probably close to 1,000.
Oh, that's so
on the radio
awesome.
show now. Huge traction. People watch this shit too, man. The analytics are off the chain. Like people tune in and they watch for like an hour.
Isn't that wild?
You know,
People will watch.
the radio show especially. Beth and our split screen, they love that shit. They love this too. I love the way that looks.
Yeah, me too with the flag.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say just if you can put the camera up higher to shoot it down low, because men look more handsome that way.
I know, but these things don't tilt.
Oh, okay.
I have to figure out put blocks up under them or something to make them tilt. I don't want to go through all that shit.
Okay, I was just saying they say men look more handsome that way. Is that your yoga mat?
Yeah.
Where do you do yoga here, or do you go to a studio?
I'm just learning.
I'm trying to learn it too.
I'm just doing stuff. Heidi turns me on to all these free videos I can do on Instagram, and
That's what I've been doing too. I just started because my neck is.
there's some buff dudes that do yoga on Instagram too. So I'm trying.
Oh
to
yeah,
catch up.
they're crazy. Well, yoga's it's more than just a stretch. That was great, man. So I tried not to interrupt.
Oh, we can off the YouTube. Thank everybody for being here. That was great, Dave. Thank you so much, man.
It was fun.
Yep. And thank you again for being here with us. We're going to wrap it up here on YouTube also. And we're thanking you for being here with us. We'll see you next time on Tuesday for Call to Reason's CTR on the side. We'll see you next time. And make sure you tune in to the radio show Sunday. Peace.